Hi, in this channel, the LD Help Guide, we, the viewer, and me, a university student with lots of experience with a learning disability, are going to talk about many useful pieces of information to help you overcome your learning disability. Yes, you can! From different tips and tricks such as different apps and software applications like Notability and Cursor 3000 to use for school, and how to advocate for yourself to get assistance in schools such as extra time for tests and new technologies like a laptop. Also, different learning disabilities like dyslexia and nonverbal learning disability and disabilities related to a learning disability like autism and ADHD will be discussed. Additionally, the three different learning types, which are visual, audio, and kinesthetic, the life of different famous people to have a learning disability such as Whoopi Goldberg and Steven Spielberg, and many other topics will be talked about on this channel. So if this sounds interesting or helpful to you, you have found the right channel. However, in today's video, we're going to talk about what is a learning disability by hitting four main topics. What is a learning disability? The specifics. Looking at learning disability statistics within the population. Then we'll look at different learning disabilities and disabilities related. And finally, we'll end the video with looking at some famous people, both present and past, that have one of the disabilities I will talk about. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. And maybe grab a snack. This is going to be a longer video. First, what is a learning disability? People have varying opinions about what is and what is not a learning disability. However, when you look up what a learning disability is, this is the general information. It might be genetic. It's a neurological disorder, meaning a difference in the brain, as the brain is part of the nervous system. Based on LD Online, children with a learning disability are as smart or smarter than their peers, but they may have difficulties reading, writing, spelling, reasoning, and or organizing information if left to figure things out by themselves or if taught in traditional ways. Also, it can influence your ability to speak. The short term for learning disability is LD. I like to think about it not as a learning disability, but as a learning difference. It's not the same thing as learning challenges caused by hearing, seeing, or moving. Also, it's lifelong and not curable or fixable, but I truly believe anyone can overcome the learning disability if they try. Also, getting the appropriate help is very important. Very important. Signs you might show if you have a learning disability, some I have already mentioned, are challenge or hate of reading, really bad handwriting, math, memory, coordination, reasoning, and spelling difficulties, challenges with organizing your thoughts so you can express or articulate the things that you want to say, challenge with language. For example, it is hard to follow directions, difficulty remembering words, rhyming, and expressing yourself, difficulty making friends, and finally, you might have delayed speech in your past. There are many more. These are just a brief summary. Percent of the world population with LD. Based on an article from 2019 by the Foothills Academy, who are a leader in learning disabilities since 1979, 5%, which is the low end, and 15%, which is the high end, of people in the world have a learning disability. It probably lies somewhere between there. However, for Canada, that number is slightly lower. For Canada, the low end remains the same at 5%. However, the high end is slightly less at 10%. And this is based on an article copyrighted in 2015 from the Learning Disability Association of Ontario. Now for the US, they have a more specific number. As opposed to a range, in the US, 15% of people have a learning disability. So the same as the high end for the world population. And this is based on LD Online, copyrighted 2020. Now I'm going to explain briefly about 10 different disabilities, though I prefer to call them differences. One of which, the actor who portrayed the boy who lived, has, as I'll go into more details later. All 10 of these are either a learning disability, learning disorder, learning difficulty, or are closely linked to learning disabilities. But first you need to know that some people group learning disabilities into 3 groups: reading, writing, and math. Dyslexia. People with dyslexia have a very hard time reading without mistakes and at a decent pace. Also, they might have a hard time with reading comprehension, writing, spelling, and math.
It is known as alexia. 3. The difficulties are involuntary, and people with this disorder have a normal desire to learn. 3. People with dyslexia have higher rates of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, developmental language disorders, and difficulties with numbers.
Dyscalculia. This is the math learning disability, as people with this disability have a hard time understanding concepts and solving math problems. Dysgraphia. This is the writing learning disability, and it causes poor spelling and handwriting. Also, it makes it hard to put your thoughts onto the paper. Auditory processing disorder. This learning disability does not affect a person's ability to hear. However, it makes it harder for people to understand information that they hear. Visual processing disorder. This learning disability does not affect a person's ability to see. However, it makes it harder for people to understand information that they see. Nonverbal learning disability. People that have this have a hard time with organization, visual and spatial skills, inadequate motor performance, and a challenge with distinguishing and processing nonverbal cues. Nonverbal learning disability. People that have this have a hard time with organization, visual and spatial skills, inadequate motor performance, and a challenge and spatial skills, inadequate motor performance, processing nonverbal cues. Autism. As of 2018, approximately half of people with autism may have a learning disability. But autism is not a learning disability based from MenCap. Based on the Autism Society, autism affects a person's social skills, communication, relationships, and self-regulation. It is a spectrum condition that affects people differently and to varying degrees. ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Though ADHD is not technically a learning disability, based on the Learning Disability Association of Ontario, ADHD is the most common disorder that coexists with learning disabilities, but is not considered a learning disability. Many individuals who have ADHD also have learning disabilities, so assessment for LDs is important if there are academic difficulties. 1/3 to 1/2 of children with ADHD have LD, based on an article from 2019 by the Foothills Academy. There is a difference in the brain that affects attention. If you have ADHD, it is hard to pay attention, sit still, and have good self-control. Also, kids might be distracted, hyper, and hasty. Slow processing speed. Slow processing speed is not a learning disability. However, it can affect people with learning disabilities and attention issues. People who have this have a hard time keeping up in class, find it hard to follow directions, takes extra time to do homework, often excessively longer than average, frustration over written assignments, a hard time getting ready to go to school. It can cause anger, anxiety, and poor self-esteem,
especially when things take people with this longer than fellow classmates, and it can take you longer to make decisions. Some kids even need extra time on tests, 4 hours instead of the class average of 2, to make the test fair, and often, kids with slow processing speeds are the last to finish tests. Finally, if you have slow processing speed, you are as smart as your classmates. Your brain just needs more time to process information. Dyspraxia. It is not considered a learning disability, but a disability in the United States, and it can affect learning. Called motor learning disability in the UK. Affects the use of different muscles and might affect speech, writing, and mobility that you may need for learning. Now I'm going to talk about famous people, with the first one actually having dyspraxia. These famous people, amongst many of the famous and not famous people, have one or more learning disabilities, or something closely related. Daniel Radcliffe. He has dyspraxia, and he is known for playing Harry Potter in all the Harry Potter movies. Whoopi Goldberg. She has dyslexia, and is known for being the host of The View. And more impressively, as of 2019, she was one of only 15 people to win an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony Award. All 4. Michael Phelps. He has ADHD, and he is known for winning 28 Olympic medals, 23 of them gold, in swimming at the Olympic Games from 2016 to as far back as 2004 for his home country of the USA. Jennifer Aniston. She has dyslexia, and she is known for playing Rachel Green on the show Friends. Steven Spielberg. He has dyslexia, and he is known for directing films such as E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Jaws, Jurassic Park, and all the Indiana Jones movies released, among many more. Jim Carrey. He has ADHD and dyslexia, and he is known for playing the Riddler in Batman Forever. Leonardo da Vinci. He had dyslexia, ADHD, and other learning disorders and attention issues. He is known for painting the Mona Lisa. Albert Einstein. He had dyscalculia and Asperger's syndrome, a type of autism. These were never tested to my knowledge, and so these are only beliefs that people think based on the evidence of how he acted. He is known for the theory of relativity and the equation E equals mc squared. Interesting fact, he could not read until he was 9. Barbara Corcoran. Saved her for last because something she said on Shark Tank really inspired me. She has dyslexia. As I already stated, she is known for being on the show Shark Tank, and for making lots and lots of money. She told the founder of Fidgetland the really inspirational quote, "I love those ADD types, and half of them are real geniuses. If only you could find a good slot to put them in. My most productive people that I've worked with my whole life usually have some kind of curveball in learning, and I seek them out. If I were to make a list of my top, say, 7 or 8 entrepreneurs I've invested in on Shark Tank, I would say all but one have a learning disability. It is a turn-on for me. I hear someone has got a learning disability, and they're my people, so to speak. Probably because I was so terribly abused in school as the dumb kid." I hope this video or this channel helps at least one person so that I can make a difference in someone's life. If you want more videos like this of me teaching to you and or us having a conversation about helping you overcome your LD, then please like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you know whenever I post a new video.
Also, if you know any other information about LD, please put it in the comments so that you can help someone else too. As well, you will find links to where I got the information for this video in the description of this video in case you want more information about a specific topic. Finally, remember, LD stands for learning difference, not learning disability.